Welcome, everybody, to another episode of 8192 The Truth. This is Joel D. Supernaw, and I am coming from my own studio here in the Pac West Center in downtown Portland. Now, I've got all the bells and whistles, but I don't have anybody to do all of the technical stuff. And it looks like I'm going to be able to pull it off. Now, I have Miss Elizabeth, my first girlfriend, and she's on live with us. Miss Beth, are you there?
Hi, Joel.
What's going on, sweetie? Have you finished up your shift?
I did. I finished up my shift, and I'm now on to the next job of the day.
Okay, so let me bring you up to speed with Miss Beth. You've heard about my friend Dickie Paraday, lifelong friend. Got in a motorcycle accident about, it's a month. It's 4 weeks on Saturday. Is that
4 weeks? Yep, 4 weeks tomorrow.
And Miss Beth is his significant other. And he, Mr. Paraday, has made an amazing recovery thus far. From being there from day one, is that an adequate statement? I know you guys are running through some tough stuff right now. Not in terms of, it's just from where you are, from where he is now to where he started at. I would say that's an amazing recovery thus far.
It is. It's really transformational from the first time that I saw him 4 weeks ago in ICU, to now where he's talking and walking and, recognizing people. And it is amazing. He's come so far.
Now, what's amazing through this process from me being out here, I wanted to get back there right away, but what's kind of been amazing for me is a couple things. You and I were friends, and we've been friends, and we've been FABU friends for years, and I step in town. I saw you the last two times I was in town, but for a better part of my adult life, I really don't know you that well. Is that a fair statement?
That is absolutely accurate.
So it has been my pleasure to I don't know how to explain it. It hasn't been my pleasure that one of my best friends was struggling for his life and now is in recovery. That has not been a pleasure, but it has been a pleasure connecting with you and realizing, oh my God, we just get it, like we get each other. We're from the same place. You're the queen of Kankakee.
I don't know about that, but I know what you mean about. It's almost like I met you all over again, and I'm getting to know you in a completely different way. And you're right; it's under horrible circumstances, but it's been awesome to reconnect.
Yeah, it's amazing, Beth. Watching this from the outside is how strong you've become through this process. Now you can't see it because you're in the middle of it. Like let me bring the audience up to speed. And I was just going to do this as a test, but this is just good. This is just good. So I'm going to run with it. Let me bring you up to speed to what Miss Beth is going on, and then I'll throw it over you to Miss Beth, and you can kind of tighten up the stuff that I miss out. So Beth is in Kankakee, Illinois. Now Beth has a job. I'm going to say it's not quite a full-time job, but it's every day. She also has an art gallery, which is amazing to me that there is any kind of culture in Kankakee, Illinois. But you know what? There's culture everywhere. You got to give people a chance. And Richard Dickey, so she's got a business and a practically a full-time job. It's Monday to Friday. And then Dickey is about, what is that, about an hour drive up north near Chicago or in Chicago?
Yeah.
So what Miss Beth does every night is she goes up and stays the night, almost every night, right next to Dickie, and then gets a few hours of sleep, drives back to Kankakee, does her day, has functions, and then drives back up at night. Has this seemed like a blur to you?
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. Sleep has become a pretty precious commodity to me. But, yeah, it doesn't feel like it's been a month. It feels like a whirlwind. And I lose track of days and I lose track of conversations. But, you know, you do what you have to do.
All right. So it's Friday. You're just finishing up a shift now, heading back to your job. And then now Richard Dickey is getting moved to what's Vinny's hospital called?
It's the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago. He's going to Northwestern today.
Okay. All right,
he
cool.
was supposed to go yesterday, but his white blood cell count was a little high, so they didn't want to move him.
All right, so that's a big move. So this will be his third. This will be his third move, and this is the every stage is a step closer to home.
Yep, it's a progression. So this is hopefully, the last place he goes to do really intensive rehab and therapy before he's able to go home.
All right. Well, we are praying for that. I will get there as soon as possible. Miss Beth, thank you for being my first guest in this studio. Now, so the next step is I hang up on you, and then I've got to figure out. So here's what I'm trying to do: is I'm trying to do the show on my own. I've got a couple people that I need to call, and I'm gonna try to do it all solo. All right. So that's the goal.
I'm honored to be the first.
Thank you, Miss Beth. I will talk to you soon.
Okay. Take care.
So that was Miss Beth. I think I hit the off button now. Hit the off button on the telephone. And I'm supposed to be having Brother Sin on the line shortly. Have not heard from him. Waiting to hear from him via text. So I'm just going to start. I'm just going to start the show and keep running with it. All right. So we already started with the welcome, everybody. All right. Great. My first point of business that I've been talking about is social media and the bully culture. One of the things that we've become is a society of bullies. I talked about that before, and it's easy to lose track of where we are in life. I'm pushing up on 52 years old. I have a 15-year-old son, and I'm learning the new culture through him. He played baseball this year, still playing baseball this year, and there was a couple times that the kids got in trouble because they would go onto a chat, some kind of social media chat thing that the kids are doing, and basically be rude to each other, basically be mean to each other. And if it's happening with the baseball team, then it's happening inside school. I have always used Facebook. Facebook started out as, oh, wow, Facebook. This is cool. I can meet girls. I'm going to say it was about 10 years ago when I joined Facebook, maybe a little bit more. And Derek Ryan, a high school friend of mine, he was my first friend. And it was kind of like, I remember getting on AOL the first time. That was my first experience with the internet, man, forever ago, 1994, possibly. And so I joined Facebook. I create some kind of profile, and I look at it like, okay, this is cool. I'm going to create a profile. I don't really know what Facebook is. I'm going to create a profile to meet chicks. Went from that real quick to because now I learned how to do videos. At this time, I'm already really, really into videos with Lad and putting them onto YouTube. But it's a couple step process. I do this because Lad is at the time fighting his way through the autism spectrum, and I do this because he loves going and watching the videos. He loves going and watching the videos. And I do videos every day, 2-3 times a day. And Lad learned before he could communicate with me, he learned how to operate the insides of YouTube before he could tell me what was going on. And early on, I had noticed I'd have these really, really cool videos and they would disappear. He would delete them. Well, if I did a video of Lad, this is I'm jumping around a little bit. If I did a video with Lad and he did not like what was going on emotionally for him when that video was taking place, because he would remember that, whether he was upset about something, whether I could understand it or not, he would go back and he would delete that video. I thought that was very interesting. He looks back on it now and wishes that he would have kept a lot of those videos, because he's a different person. He has made it so far, and he is so cognizant of where he was. He's just so amazing. I can't say enough things about my son and his battle in the autism spectrum. So anyway, I start using Facebook as a platform to promote Lad's battle. Okay, video. What's going on with Lad? I got pictures. I got videos going back for years and years and years. And what happens over the years is I connect with people to a certain degree. In the FABU world, I connect with people that respond to my post. I think that's very similar with all of us. It then becomes a sounding board. Okay? Now I'm being honest with it. It then becomes a sounding board with what I'm going through in my life. This is well before I gain any kind of notoriety on being on Chael Sonnen's podcast, You're Welcome podcast. But I then start building what I believe is my own following. Now I got Randy Couture, and he's a famous fighter, and some people know him. So if he will respond to one of my FABU posts, I will then get more people interested in whatever I was talking about. And I talked about this the other day. I had been on many trips with Lad, with Randy, with Caden, Randy Couture's son, Caden. And what I was doing is building moments to put on Facebook. And then I get a big response, and look at this and look at that. And most of the stuff is still on my Facebook. Then what happened? Now I'm doing this as sort of a therapy. Lad likes it. Lad likes going on to the Facebook and looking at the stuff. I love the comments because generally we are very nice to each other in the FABU world. Nobody ever checks anybody. It's not where the bullies are or have been. The bullies are usually on the Twitter or the Instagram, a couple social media forms that I know. I never really got into the Instagram, but I did get into the Twitter, and man, you really a bully society on the Twitter. So anyway, what the Facebook becomes is I need to feel good about myself. I'm going to post something, whether it's BS or not. And if somebody says good job, then great. Well, then it becomes a bigger trap. I go on to Chael Sonnen's show, and I get thousands and thousands and thousands of friend requests. They then start telling me how cool I am. I then start to believe it, and I'm talking to Kevin. I'm sorry about that. I start to believe it, and then it really starts to feed me because now I'm somebody. Now, it already started off with my initial belief that I had an audience, that I might be famous in my own little world. And then it went to a bigger audience. Now a couple thousand people are very active, and they're telling me I'm great or this, that, and the other. Now I really start to feel it. And then I start to, I don't want to say pander to that audience, but reading things that people say, and this is just human nature. Reading things that people say, I then start creating a different personality to a certain point. I start to believe I'm somebody more than I am. And I start living inside the social media world. Now, aside from the aspect of it where it's taken up a lot of my thought, it then starts to take up a lot of my time. If you guys remember about, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago when the cell phones came on, the first people to have those cell phones, when they would be talking or they would be on their phone all the time, we would ridicule them. We would ridicule them. There's an entire generation now that have been, like my son Ladd, that has known how to use a phone and social media their entire life. So taking something away from them now and saying, hey, this is harmful. This is not good. You're spending too much time. And we use it as a babysitter. Man, that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing to understand. Well, now for me, I look at it and it really jumps. Talking about the bully nature of things, it really jumps when the president comes in and becomes a bully on social media. Because if he can do it, then we can do it. And I don't want to be political, but it's true. The bigger point of this is no matter how big your audience is, whether it's 15 or 20 people or 20 million people, and I know every demographic. Well, not the 20 million people, but I have friends with over 1 million Twitter followers, so I can't speak on that a little bit. It does change them. It changes them because they start living for that audience. And we do it as well. We start living for our next Facebook post. The more times you are posting on Facebook, the more time, or social media or Instagram, the more you are, how do I say it? The more you are separating yourself from what reality is. And for me, it's been I don't want to be that person. I see it. I do not want, and I am that person. I have become that person. I don't want to be the person that is living on their phone, that is living on social media, that changes their behavior based on practically what a complete stranger says, whether that's good or bad. I don't want to be that person where everyone is a star. That is what social media is. So that's the start of my show. So I believe I'm going to be able to stop this right here and then start a new one when I call Kevin in a few minutes. That is my belief. This is real time. I'm being honest with you, what's going on. And I don't want to use up all of my ammunition. So here we go. I'm going to stop it. All right, I am back, and so Anthony, we have superstar Lionheart, the last of the Mohicans, Anthony Smith on the line. Anthony, now you're traveling, correct?
I am, Joel.
Okay, cool. So I'm in the Pac West studio in downtown Portland right now, but I'm running my own ship. So I'm everything in one. Now Kevin was supposed to come on earlier, and he couldn't, and then you were going to come on later. So anyway, let's just get to your part, brother. Man, congratulations on your knockout victory of Rashad Evans in the last UFC. What was that, 225?
Yeah, 225.
Okay, so a couple things. Dude, how do you have so many fights?
Man, I started right away as an amateur when I was like 17. And I fought for a couple of years, and I think the scene in the Midwest is just a little bit different. I think that I had a little bit bad advice. I took a lot of fights at the beginning that I should have taken, and I just fought a lot and often, and that's where I got a lot of losses, and I think a lot of those losses are from real early on. I turned pro at 20, but I think back then turning pro at 19 or 20 was much different than it is right now. Nowadays these 19 and 20-year-olds are killers, and it just wasn't like that back then. So I just like to fight. I really do.
I tell you what's interesting about that, bro, is that's the first thing that you mention is your losses. I love the psychological part of fighting. I always have, but you realize the only thing anyone cares about is your last fight. And so right now, you're the coolest guy in the world. You're coming off a win. Not only are you coming off a win, you're coming off a huge win. So what's the difference, if you know what I'm talking about? What is the difference between those two things? Whether that loss is a split decision, a stoppage, or the win is a win. What is the emotional difference between the two?
I don't really go into the fight thinking about winning, so I don't know what the difference is. I go into fights looking for finishes. I've gone to 2 decisions in my entire career. I don't know how many fights I got. I got a bunch, over 40.
Oh,
So, I've only been to 2 decisions, so I'm just chasing the finish. I really am. So as soon as I get it, I'm happy. And the 2 times I didn't get it, it felt like a loss to me. So.
But
it goes down as a W, and I get that second check. But in the grand scheme of how my brain works, I need to finish.
Okay, I understand that. But what I want to get to is I guess I answered the question improperly. On the outside of it, on the outside world, the difference between a win and a loss, and usually, what happens, I've found out, is you guys realize, oh wow, there is a big difference. This isn't half of this isn't real.
Yeah, absolutely. I joke around with my fiance a lot that like a lot of our friends only want to come hang out when I'm winning, and that's essentially how it is. I don't know why there's like how many times do baseball teams lose in a year? And it's seemingly no one gives a shit, and football teams lose several times in a season. And it's just, for some reason, when MMA fighters lose, it's like the end of the world, and we're like thrown away like trash. And I don't know why that is. And I don't know if that's some of the boxing model coming over. If you had two or three losses as a boxer, you were trash and you were done. So I don't know if that part of it came over to our sport or what happened, but it drives me crazy. There's too many ways in this sport to lose, and there's just so many guys in this. Everybody's good, and sometimes you're just going to have a bad out, and it just happens, And I think that's what makes guys that are able to stay undefeated. They're going these long, your Demetrius Johnsons and your John Jones and those kind of guys. What makes them so special? It's not necessarily how good they are; it's how long they were able to, how every single time they were able to go out there and get the job done consistently. But I get your question now. I don't know why it's like that, but it's depressing,
Yeah, I can kind of speak on it a couple different ways. I've got a different kind of vantage point than most fans do from this sport. I've fought a few times. I've been around the sport, whether it was in the back of my dealership or Chael or Randy. I remember when Randy would lose a fight, and it would take me as one of his bros, it would take me a minute to figure out what to say to him. And then I realized it's a wrestling match. I mean, you can give him 30 minutes and then go talk to him. When you say your closest friends, I think they're in the. I think that's where it starts. I think it starts with your friends, and then the social media, and then it's the mental thing of just how it makes you feel. I'm fascinated by the mental part of fighting. I always have been. For you to fight the way you do, you have, I believe, that you have an instinctive fighting ability, which means when you get in that cage, when it's ready to go, there you couldn't hear a sound if you needed to. It's just you and the other cat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the weirdest thing, and I try to explain it to people, like how I feel when I'm in there, which is so hard to explain. Like I just don't know how to even put it into words. Like when it's go time and we're about to walk out, and it's not like I have to attempt to flip a switch or anything like that. It's like my body and my brain knows, like, all right, we're here. Like we're it's almost like I feel like I get this weird warm sensation all through my body, and it's like this is where I belong. You know, like it's like I'm supposed to do this. You know, it's the weirdest thing. Like I wouldn't be happy if I didn't. So, you know, I've actually told a story before. Like, you know, you see guys that you know they get to the night of the fight and then their opponent pulls out, or they get hurt, or they get sick. You know, I don't know what the hell I would do, Joel. Like honestly, I don't know. Like once it turns on that day of the fight, like there's only one way that it's getting turned back off. Like I'm not sure that I'd be able to be a normal human being in society after it turns on. I wouldn't be able to turn it off.
Yeah, I think, you know, I had an opportunity to fight, I think 5 or 6 times, and the first one was completely different because I thought it was going to be a wrestling match. And then,
Right.
you know, then I fought a few more times, and then the last few, what I realized was there was a couple spots for me. There was the spot where I got inside the cage, and there was 2 questions that were going to be asked, and the only way I can answer those questions was clocking the other guy's eyes. And the first question that came to me was, do I want to be here? Do I want to be here? And when that question was yes, I would get then a bigger bump, like a bigger rush. And then the second question was, does this other cat want to be here? And I've had it both times. I could tell, okay, that cat doesn't want to be there. And then that
Right.
cat does want to be there. And either one of those, it kind of heightened things. And then when the fight would start, the one thing looking back on it that people don't realize is, man, you could get kicked in the head. You're not going to feel anything until you get out of that cage. That adrenaline is such a rush, and you can't compare it to anything. I like talking to you about that. Like you can't explain it, and I'll try to explain it. You're not a father yet. And the way I've always explained what it feels like to be inside a cage is every parent has lost their child, whether it was for a minute, 2 minutes, or 5 minutes. When
Right.
you lose your child.
Wait, did you say I'm not a father yet?
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, I got 3 kids.
Okay, I apologize, bro. All right, then you'll
No, you're
understand. Perfect. Then I can walk this back to you, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, that is how it feels. Okay, so you know when you lose your kid. You lose your kid,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Yeah.
all right. And first you're like, where is he? That's the first. But now you've gotten a heightened. You're on your toes a little bit. You've said, all right, where's he at? Where's she at? Now the second stage is, oh man, I hope I didn't lose my kid. You know, I hope my
Exactly.
kid's not gone. And then the third one is, I've lost my kid, and it's adrenaline and panic all at the same time. And now everybody on the planet has disappeared other than you and your child and trying to find that kid. Can you speak on that? Have you lost one of your kids before?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
Just for a short period of time. You look away for a second, and they peel off, and you're like, you know, and it's crazy that you actually do go through those exact same emotions. Like, where is she at? Like, where's she at? And you're like, I think I really lost my kid, you know?
Yeah, that's the only way I've ever been to explain, to try to adequately explain. And I've only had five or six fights. You fought 560 times. So let me. I was so happy for you in your fight. I thought it was a perfect fight from the time you got it. Then I've listened to you. For you guys that don't know, Anthony is 6'4", 6'3".
6'4".
6'4". That is so tall. And he's been fighting at 185 pounds. I have no idea how you made that weight. And I wanna get into this, but I want to paint the scene. So Anthony just got done losing a fight at 185 pounds about 4 or 5 months ago. Was a great fight. And you decided right after that, I'm done. I'm going up to 205 pounds. Fight a legend.
Yeah.
Fight a legend, former UFC champion, one of the first Ultimate Fighting champions, Rashad Evans. You win that fight in spectacular fashion, and now in a great. You're the talk of the town. Couple things I want to talk about is I love. I've been reading all your stuff. When you decided that you were done at 185 pounds. Your weight dropped. You're walking around. You said in one of your interviews, you said you used to walk around at 225 pounds, and as soon as you decided to drop to 205, you were at like 212, 214 pretty quick.
Yeah, it was.
And then did you second guess your decision? Because at 205, if you're walking around at 205, I mean, a 20-pound weight cut's a bear for anybody. But you were all there at 212, 220, whatever you are. Did you start to think that, hey, maybe I made the wrong decision, or was making 185 a all-in 24/7 headache that you never got to train?
Well, there's two ways that I looked at it right away, but first of all, going back to 185 was never even. I never second guessed it, not one time. But what it did when my weight kind of dropped like that, it actually proved everything that everyone had been telling me for so long was correct. And it's, my main decision was really influenced. I mean, I kind of already made the decision when I left Brazil, but the UFC did a really good job of helping me, like, put numbers behind it and really explain to me what I'm doing to myself. So when they said, when you take that anxiety off of your body and you stop doing the yo-yo effect, your weight's going to level out and you're not going to go so high and have to come down so low. So by shocking my whole system so many times over so many years, my body was starting to store fat around my organs to protect them. So, and I could feel that I was doing damage to myself, and that was ultimately why I stopped. But I'd go down to 185, and then I would just, because like you said, it's a 24/7 headache. It's a commitment, and it takes me weeks and weeks and weeks to get there of just suffering. So then as soon as I make weight and I fight, then I just destroy myself. And I'm eating anything I want because that's all I thought about for weeks. And then I'm just ballooning up to 230, 235. And then next, and that happens in a matter of days. And then next thing I know, now I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do now? So when I decided to go up to 205, and I didn't mentally and like emotionally have to think like, okay, now I have to go to 185 again. And my body knew like, hey, we're good. We're kind of where we're at. I just started coming down. And then we started getting to the point where I was like 210, 209 after practices, and the UFC were like, oh, we're going to get this up a little bit. I just had to change the way that I was eating and actually fuel myself correctly. I didn't know how to do that because I'd never been able to.
I'm so happy that you did it, and you're a real cat. You're like one of the only real cats out there that it took you so long to get to the UFC. You've had nothing but hammers in the UFC, and now you've kind of been liberated a little bit because, at 212, rolling into fight week, you're you're a meal and 2 hours away from making weight, right? I mean, you could go make weight anytime you want it. I mean, it takes you. What's it going to take you? It's going to take you 90 minutes if you push.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this ridiculous weight issue. The first thing, because you're also a fan of the sport, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan, junkie.
Okay, I don't know, and I've been talking in Ladd, Ladd's, and he knows everything about this sport. I don't know who the first person was that thought it was a good idea to put the camera on their weight cut. I want to say it wasn't Chris Weidman, but it was somebody.
It might have been Cyborg.
Well, I don't know who.
Did it early on.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right. It might have been Cyborg. It was somebody. And it was the dumbest thing it was one of the dumbest things that's ever happened in the sport. Because there's a couple things that people know. Okay? If you've ever pulled weight and a weight cut, I'll say you've pulled weight if it started at 15 pounds. If it started at 15 pounds, no matter where you are, you're going to go, if you have to make weight in a period of 24 hours, you're going to go through some uncomfortable things. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the world, which is almost everybody. If you tell every person in this building, there's probably 1,000 or 2,000 people in this building that, hey, I can take you right now, take you to the gym if there's a sauna there, and now it's a goddamn, what are they called, Epsom baths or whatever, and you could lose 15 pounds in 24 hours, they'd say you were crazy. And then if they could tap out at any time, almost all of them would at some point tap out. Here's the thing, that nobody should have ever videoed what's going on in a weight cut, because in a real weight cut, it is it's just you against the scale. And as the farther you go, the more people that disappear. Your girlfriends, your friends, your family, farther into the weight cut, they disappear. Then it's just you and your coaches, you and your bro. Then sooner or later, they disappear. And it's just you and that scale. And there's a point that comes into it where misery is so hard. The only question that's going on is, do I go to the water fountain or not? Do I break or not? Okay?
Yep.
And if you don't break, no matter how much weight you cut, ain't nobody dying cutting weight. This bullshit about my body shut down, God, I've heard that forever. The ones that tell me I quit sweating, okay, yeah, you might have quit. I mean, I've been watching. No wrestler has ever, other than those Minnesota cats, died from cutting weight. But what happened was we opened up that torturous part of cutting weight to the whole world, and then the commission had to get in. Do you see what I'm saying? Dude, talk about some of your toughest pulls. And you knew you weren't dying, but you felt like it.
Well, I think that's the thing. Everybody feels like they're dying. Whether it's 20 pounds or 5, it's suffering. It's just terrible. I mean, but I've been, my last weight cut was of the last 3. Here's how the last 3 went. I diet all the way down as far as I can get, and I show up to check-in at like 205, and which is probably pretty average for 85ers. I'm just super tall and lean, so at 205 for me is about as lean as I can get naturally. So I show up at 205. I spend the week not eating a whole lot, doing as much as I can, and still training every single day. And I gradually get my weight down to I don't know, 197 maybe. And from then on, it's water. We're pulling water, and it starts off. It just kind of depends on how you feel, but it kind of depends on what mode of torture you want to go through first.
Now, are you Epsom? Are you bath guy or sauna guy?
I used to be a complete sauna guy, and I don't know if I did. I don't know if I just got sick of it, or so then I went to the steam rooms for a long time, and the steam rooms started making things a little bit easier. They're a hell of a lot hotter,
Ooh.
but there's that moisture to it. And if you can find a place that's really nice, they have like that eucalyptus smell in there, and it makes it a little bit easier to breathe in there. But you only have to you can do shorter sits in the steam room
and
number
pull
one,
more water.
You can't handle any longer than that. But number two, you raise your body temperature so fast that you only have to be in there for a much shorter period of time than you do in the sauna, and you almost start sweating immediately because of the humidity. So then I went to the steam rooms, and I'll usually pull out of probably the last 2 or 3 I'll do that using the tub, because it's easier to pull it out of you with the imbalance with all the salt you put in the water. It just sucks it out of you.
I've been bitching about that Epsom salt bath for as long as you guys been doing them, but I've never tried one. So so I should.
Some people do their whole cut in them.
Yeah, that seems crazy to me.
No way. That's just I mean, and that's just so hard on you, and I think that's a lot of the problem.
Well,
it's the way that people are cutting weight. And really, I don't even know if it's so much the way we're doing it. I think that we've gotten into this culture of just looking for every advantage, and then that's when you start running into these PD users and the guys that are always trying to cheat the system are forcing people like me who just truly don't give a shit. I don't care what we weigh in at. I fought at heavyweight before, weighing in at 214, fighting a guy that missed weight at heavyweight. So I don't care, but it's forcing everybody to go. It all starts at the top. So you get a guy who's not quite big enough, or thinks he's not quite big enough to make heavyweight, and he might be 235, 240, but doesn't want to fight as a heavyweight. So he kills himself, forces his way down to 205. Then you got natural guys like me that are natural 205ers, and then I mean Forrest Griffin. Stephen Bonner, how big those guys are. Those guys are Rampage walking around at 260, and cutting all the way down to 205. So I mean, then you got guys like me who are like, well, shit, I got to put myself in the best position because that's what these guys are doing. So then I'm killing myself to get to 85, and then all the 85ers are mad at me. Like, what? You don't belong here. What? What the hell you want me to do? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Somehow they have figured out how to game the system. For a big part of it, man, it takes a special body composition, I believe, to game the system. When you look at a guy like Romero, and he was 185 pounds, 0.2. He missed weight. I actually called that he was going to miss weight. I didn't think he'd get that close. I mean, that guy's got a couple screws loose, but he probably walked into that cage 207. When he fought Whitaker, and Whitaker was 189 pounds, and I thought, man, that's so cool. And one of the things, so he had a distinct advantage. He did. When you outweigh somebody by 20 pounds, and the same thing at 205, and you'll get to this, you'll get to the same spot in your career at 205. Man, just stick to your guns because it's a marathon. That weight, especially if you get into 5 rounders. But even at the 3 rounders, that weight's only going to be an advantage for a certain period of time. But
I 100% agree with that. I was going into my fights after making 85. I was weighing well over 207. I mean, there was times where I was stepping on. When I knew this stuff was getting bad is when they started weighing us. When we showed up to the arena, like the UFC actually started weighing us and taking tabs on how much weight we were gaining after weigh-ins. And that's when I knew that, this hammer's about to drop pretty soon. I need to figure something out because I was, I'd step on the scale and say 218, 219, and they'd look at me like I was crazy. Like, what the hell do you want me to do? Like, I made the weight yesterday. So it was bad. But
that's a great point.
I started figuring out that I wasn't able to compete at the highest level. If the rounds were 2 minutes long, I'll beat anybody at 85 you put in front of me. But I just, after the weight cuts, I just didn't have it in me to go that long, and that's what you see Whitaker running into and several other guys. I just think that just people put a lot of pressure on you to stay where you're at. I talked about 85 for a long time, and even my fiance, the mother of my kids, said, "No, you need to stay at 85. You're not big enough for 205." At the beginning, and then once she started figuring out, damn, I think he can compete at 205. The more she looks at it and thinks about it, so even her. I mean, imagine what the people in the game are saying.
Man, I tell you, It's changed. The sport's changed in the way people cut weight. The biggest thing is people have learned how to cut up to 28 pounds, even 30 pounds fight week. Okay?
Yeah.
See, in my day, and this is wrestling, this is all fighting, it's the same thing. It's a weigh-in. In my day, if you had 20 to go and you had Friday to make weight, man, it was a pull, but you were going to make it. But 20 was the number. Nobody was cutting more than 20 pounds. You would rather be 15. And then you'd go you'd go 15, 10, and then depending on how much torture, I like to, go from 15. Now I'm 10 over, and then last day I'm going to pull 7. That's how I like to. But I got caught in being the 20-pound weight cut guy. But nobody cut more than 20 pounds. That number, because of the way people, I want to say, manipulate the water in their system. It doesn't matter. That number's become 30. 32. People are cutting 32 pounds a week. That's too much, man. That's too much. I still don't think anybody's going to die doing it, but it does change the ability to people game the system. That it was, I don't want to say it was cool, but Jimmy Rivera just got knocked out by who's that? Marlon Moraes?
Marlon Moraes.
Wasn't that 135-pound fight?
Yeah.
Dude, Jimmy Rivera was weighing 200 pounds just 4 months ago when they did that big, you remember when they had the big, one of those big press conferences with all the upcoming.
Yeah.
He was weighing 200 pounds.
200?
He was weighing 200 pounds. And,
Jesus.
Man,
that's like Kevin Lee. What does that guy walk around at, when he had a long off season? I mean, he's got to be well over 200 pounds.
Yeah, man, I don't. Then I mean, if you start your camp and you're 50 pounds overweight, it's just all about weight cutting. I can't believe how tough people have got doing that. So let's get off of that one. I got 2 more subjects for you. One that I'm really, really interested about, and I tell the guy out here, I tell Ricky Simone, I'm like, man, he's the up and coming 135 pounder. I'm like, why don't you go out?
Yeah.
Why don't you go out to the Performance Institute? It would seem to me, and then I'm asking you the same question. It would seem to me, Anthony, a guy with as many fights as you have, the only thing that's going to get better in the next 8 weeks from the time you start training to the time you finish having so many fights is your attitude. You're really probably not going to pick up any more skills. You've got them all. They're in your toolkit. You might convince yourself that, oh, man, I picked this up and I picked that up. Man, you're a killer. You're going to go out and eat or be eaten. My question to you is, why aren't guys, because from what I understand, you could just go out there and they take care of you. All you need to do is take care of your housing.
Yeah, I've been there 5 or 6 times.
Oh, okay.
I love it. Yeah, I've gotten real tight with the staff and had good talks with Forrest, and I think it's it's a game changer. It really is. I spent a lot of time with Heather Linden, who's the director of physical therapy there, and just as long as my career has been, I've taken a lot of bumps, man, and my body's just I need to spend a lot more time as I get older and further along in my career, just focused on taking care of myself so that I can be the best me I can be. Now that I'm at 205, I think that's even more important, because the good thing about me having so many fights at this point in my career and then moving up is I have a whole bunch of tools that nobody knows about. I've been beating people off of just whatever they give me at the moment. Like I haven't shown a glimmer of what my potential is, not even close yet. So I still got these cards that are held close to my chest. Now I just need to make sure I take care of my body, and the Performance Institute is really helping with that. I mean, it's a $100 million facility or more. I mean, I don't know why more people don't take advantage of it, but man, I love it. I go out there any opportunity. If I can get away for 2 or 3 days and go out there and get out to Vegas and spend hours in the physical therapy area, and then hours with the nutritionist and the Bo Sandoval, the strength and conditioning director, is phenomenal. I have good strength and conditioning at home and in Denver, but I I mean, this guy is phenomenal, and he talks to all the coaches all over the world for all the fighters, and helps you, and not just strength and conditioning part of it. He helps maintain stuff. So he helps strengthen the ligaments, the joints, prevent injury, so I don't know, man. I watched Ricky fight, I believe, in his debut, and that dude's awesome, man. I'm a big fan of his, so definitely tell him to get out there, man. It's worth the trip, and I know it's, especially if you're your debut guy and you're on that bottom pay scale, it's a little bit of an investment to get there and kind of put yourself up for a few days, but it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know you were taking advantage of that. I am so happy that you are. It just, to me, the two things that guys like you can change is the nutrition and the recovery and the strength.
Mm-hmm.
And a place like that, to me, is, man, that's where the professionals are. That's where the best people in the world are. And if you have that access to you for free, man, take advantage of it. So the last question I got for you, champ, is how close are we to getting on that card in your hometown?
It sounded good. I know that I think they're trying to button up a lot of the international fight week stuff. So I think that I assume that they're just like, all right, Anthony's fighting. We're gonna, we'll wait. And we'll put him on the back burner. We'll get him an opponent.
Yeah,
but it sounds good. It sounds like that's where they want me. And every single time I fought, I've begged for a quick turnaround. And it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. There's a lot of guys on the roster. I understand that. There's a lot of guys that are complaining about not fighting.
Well, you've been in some wars too, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the hell else I got to do. I mean, the whole plan. I told him before the fight happened, like, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to start Rashad, and then I want to fight Lincoln. And everyone's kind of like, oh, okay, like, I think they thought I was joking, but I wasn't kidding. Like, I needed to get in and get out uninjured.
Well, I
could make, I mean, that's a dream to me. I made my pro debut 2 blocks from that arena, and the place where I made my pro debut isn't even. It was torn down years ago. So it would be real cool 10 years later to go back to where it all started.
Well, just make it happen. I tell you, the one thing that you can do now that you can make weight in 24 hours. Just let them know, because they know you're right. The thing about the UFC that people don't understand is they have guys. They have yes guys. Chael was a yes guy. They have guys that if they call, they know that answer is yes. So
for sure.
As they put the card together, there's some other ones they got to go through. They got to jump through a little hoops to put it together. This, that, and the other, and then they just tell you who you're fighting. I mean,
exactly. See, I'm always the last one to know.
Yeah,
because they're not worried about me. They know that you call me as long as I'm uninjured, and I'm a yes. You never have to worry about that as long as I'm uninjured, which doesn't. Fortunately, doesn't seem to happen too often. I don't want to jinx myself, but I'm in. It doesn't matter who it is, and any name you can pull up from Francis Ngannou to Demetrius Johnson, it's a yes.
All right, cool. And you're going to have a lot more opportunity now that you don't have to cut weight to take short fights, because guys are always pulling out. Guys are always missing weight. When I see if I was you and I seen the championship at 205 pounds is coming up. I'm going to make sure I got I got my medicals in that jurisdiction, and I can, I can get out there in 24 hours, because somebody's going to miss weight until they clean this up. Brother, I am so happy for you in being a fan of yours and watching your career. I know you're going to do good there. Do you want to throw any shout-outs to anybody, any of your sponsors or anything?
Yeah, man. I want to shout out to Icon Meals. They've been feeding me and my family. And my manager Jim Walter and all my coach Mark Montoya. I don't know if you watched the PFL last night, but Brian Foster got a win in that tournament. So Factory X is doing big things, man. I think that Mark is definitely a guy that I think you would enjoy talking to, man. Especially he's an old school guy. He's been around a long time. He's just got a really cool mind for the sport. I think that would be a dude that definitely, and I'm sure he'd be willing to do it too. So
cool.
Me and him have talked about you when you were with Chael. We listen to the podcast, religiously. So I think that's definitely a guy you can talk to. But definitely shout out to him and you, man. I appreciate you, and I'm glad you got your own thing rolling, and you're doing a good job, man. I like it.
All right, thanks. Hey, so for the PFL, loved it. I tell you, I watched it last week. I remember Randy telling me, or it was a couple weeks ago. I watched it. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I forgot where it was. And I remember Randy telling me he got a gig with them, and I was just flipping through the channel, and it was a Thursday, and I was like, and they were like, and then I'm checking Twitter to see, okay, this is live because now people are talking about it. I watched the one a couple weeks ago. I loved it. I thought their promotion, told Chael the next day, I thought their promotion was equal with what Bellator does. And the fights were good. The fights were good. And what they're doing, man, what they're doing in putting $1 million out there for the champion of the tournament, and they're paying him they're paying him in the meantime, correct?
Yeah, they get. From what I understand, they get like I don't know if it's a monthly. I think it's a monthly stipend so that they can beat themselves and train and do whatever. But like you said, they're just dangling a carrot in front of people, and it's $1 million carrot.
Yeah, man, I tell you, there's a lot of cats, and you're one of them that I bet you look at that 205-pound weight class in that thing and be like, man.
Yeah, like damn, that would have been my money.
Yeah, then I could have come back to the shine. Well, I love it. I think there's a spot. Obviously, there's a spot for the more organizations because that they've got a lot of money behind that one.
For sure.
All right. Well, I'm gonna throw a shout out to our boy Jakey Baby Ellenberger to get back on the right track. Hopefully, he can get a fight in Nebraska. And the one thing about Jakey Baby is he shouldn't even train. He's become too good. You know, he's learning all this new stuff in the room, and he's feeling good, and he's having a lot of confidence in the room. And then he goes out, and what he's forgot is he's just a stone cold killer. And if he didn't train, and you said, Jake, you got 90 seconds to go get your money, man, he'd have been 4-4 out of the last 8 at least. So shout out to Jakey Baby. Thanks for coming on the show. And man, I'd love to I hope you get on that Lincoln card, and me and Lad will try to come out there and see you.
No, that'd be great, man.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care, man.
Bye. Boom. Here we go. We're back and running. All right. Now, I got Brother Sin on. Got my co-host on. Brother Sin, what's going on?
Hey, man, not a whole lot. Good to hear your voice.
All right. So to paint the scene, because we've been talking about doing this, and what we're going to try to get to is a call-in line. So I'm at the Pac West Center in downtown Portland. I've got my own studio, except I'm running everything, bro. So,
nice.
So when we talk about what we want to get to is actually what I want to get to eventually is kind of the same thing we had when we started, except the ability to bring in the audience. You know, when we did our first 2 shows, I want to eventually get back to that vision. But for now, the big show, the once a week show, we want to do call-ins. Now I can only have one line, so me and you're gonna have to figure out who comes on the show next week. Fans wise, who comes on the show. I've only got one line, so we have to figure out how to do it. But anyway, for the day one at the Pac Center, I think this is gonna sound good. And I like to run it front to back, but this little system here, I'll take some pictures of it. It lets me start and stop right away. So here we go. So we are back in business, and I haven't eaten up all of my talking points, but before I do, when's the baby coming?
The baby is coming 1st of August, if it's on time. Most of our kids, 2 of the 3, have been at least 2 weeks early. So we're looking anywhere from about 2.5 weeks onward. Could be any time.
Yeah, to tell you, Lad was supposed to be born in August and was actually born a month ago, and so it's house money at this point.
Yeah.
All right, so how's the new house?
It's good. It's big. We've done a lot with it already. Trying to get it family set up for the long haul. We got the big wooden playground compound out back now. We got the the big 8-man hot tub we purchased and had set up. We've got a nice little sanctuary here, so we're settling in for the long haul. We're making it our place.
Now you had a weight room. You had a weight room in the basement. Another one. Do you have a
Yes.
a Brother Sin place
Yes.
to go?
Yes, I got a nice, even bigger, same equipment, but a little bigger space. Yeah, I got a nice gym in the basement, having a sauna delivered here beginning a week after next. So, it's coming along. We're enjoying it.
Oh, I love that you're getting a sauna. Just make yourself. I tell you what, make a deal with yourself. Seriously, make a deal with yourself that if you don't get in that sauna at least 5 times a week, you will destroy it with a sledgehammer. Because for whatever reason, everybody that I know that has a sauna at their house never uses it.
Really?
I don't know what happens with it. So you're financially responsible. Make a deal with yourself that I'll go ahead and own up to this. I will destroy this with a hammer. You can start out at 4 times a week or whatever, but make sure you use that thing. That's so good.
The only thing I could think of for that reason is that, they did tell us that it takes 45 minutes to an hour to get to optimal max heat. So I can see people wait around a few times and then they just don't put in the time to sit and do it. But I'll make that deal.
Are you getting the old school one or are you getting the infrared?
Combination.
Oh, really? I didn't know there was a combination.
Yeah, they do, and I didn't know which route to go. I like the old school, the sweat, and one sales rep always tried to sell me on the infrared, and then I talked to some people that have them, and they said no, that you don't get near the sweat in the infrared, doesn't work the same. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to take any chances of not liking it. I'm getting the combo. I'll pay a little more. I'll get the double. I can do it either way.
Yeah, I like the Jewish Community Center out in Kansas City had an infrared, and it was different for me, but the one thing was, man, you had to put in your time. You had to give it about 20 minutes before you could really get that good deep sweat. And man, 20 minutes in a sauna in a gym with dudes rolling in that I don't know. When we talked about it before, that just have zero etiquette in terms of what is socially appropriate. It's just it's hit or miss. All right, let's. I've got some topics, and then I'm sure you do. Did you see first the first thing? Did you see Brendan Schwab at first throw shade on Joe Rogan, and then him and Chael got in a little a pissing match?
Joe and Chael? Yes.
No, not Joe and Chael. Brendan and Chael. I didn't know if Joe and Chael got in one.
Oh, maybe I didn't catch that. I mean, I don't catch everything that Schaub does, but I try and catch most of it. Maybe I missed that.
Okay.
I heard him talking about Chael, and they played the clip of Chael going off on Rogan about talking about Kobe, but maybe I missed.
Okay, let me roll you down as much as I have. Now, I told you I'm trying to get a system where I'm completely off social media. Maybe I'll check it. I know it's a plan, and then within that is, I believe, and we're going to test this. I believe I can catch up with everything that's going on in mixed martial arts the night before I do a show in 30 minutes. Okay, I've been saying I've just been spending too much time cycling through my phone on stuff. But so anyway, I only needed a little bit of this. I only needed a little bit. Brendan Schwab comes out and he throws shade on Joe Rogan about Joe's commentary on the CM Punk fight, and who's that other guy? Mike Jackson? Was that his guy?
Jackson,
okay. Yeah. So I let him run about a minute and 30 seconds, and then I just shut it off because I had enough ammunition for myself. And I'm like, dude, the one guy Brendan Schwab can't throw shade on is Joe Rogan. Ever. Brendan Schwab is Brendan Schaub's working at a gym if it's not for Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah, Rogan made him a millionaire. Absolutely. It was only his chances to get on Rogan and befriend him that gave him the listeners and the levels of success he has. Absolutely.
Yeah, so he can never see. That's the problem with when people become either famous or successful. They think they did it all on their own. And here's a spot, but he did something interesting here. So first he throws shade on Rogan, and I quit listening to it at that point because I was like, all right, dude, you've lost your mind. You can never throw shade on Joe Rogan. Without Joe Rogan, you have nothing. You have nothing. Yeah, maybe you would have made it somewhere else. We don't know that, but we do know for sure 100%. You don't have the job and the shine you have now without Joe Rogan. So you can't come on him. And the thing that he was bitching about, he was complaining that Rogan legitimized that fight, the CM Punk Mike Jackson fight, which to me was better than I thought it would be. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. And for professional fighters that if they know where the sport started, which was just a minute ago, it was just a second ago when there was only 3 or 4 places that you could even do this. There was only 3 or 4 promotions. There was only a couple places you could even train at. For dudes to jump on a high horse and say that was the worst thing that's ever happened in the UFC and it should have never happened, check yourself, man. Check yourself. We knew what it was going in. For me,
absolutely,
the fight was bad, but I knew it was going to be bad. The only question I didn't know was one bad fighter, and that's all he could be without any background in real combat. The CM Punk's not going to beat a real professional fighter, so they match him up with the lowest denominator they can, which is a guy that has some skills in another sport, and they fight. The event itself, who are we to? It's cage fighting, man. Where do you guys get off on thinking that you're at a different spot than you were 20 years ago? It's a cage fight. Get over yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, and watching that, like you said, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. And to be honest, it was no less entertaining than I saw Bader and Phil Davis fight live in Bellator. 2 high-level professional, real fighters. It was no more exciting watching those 2 grapple at a snail's pace for 3 or 5 rounds, whatever that title match was. That was no more entertaining. So yeah, I don't think it was the worst thing in the world. You are absolutely right on that.
Yeah, we could talk. We could literally talk for 2 hours on equally or worse fights. I mean, the one that just happened that jumps out on me is that the Bullet, Valentin Shevchenko, bludgeoning that gal over in Brazil for 8 or 9 minutes or 13 minutes before they stopped it. That was way worse.
Absolutely, and at least this was somewhat competitive. I mean, they were all saying, and I agree, CM Punk won the first round. So Mike Jackson may not be any good, but CM Punk actually won a round.
Well,
it wasn't completely lopsided.
Yeah, good for him. I mean, the biggest thing that I was upset about with the CM Punk thing on the first fight was the fact that either people were giving him more shine than he deserved, his training partners, Woodley was one of them, they weren't leveling with him like, oh, man. I mean, because now looking back, God, how far out of his realm was he against Mickey Ward or Mickey Gall?
Mickey Gall.
So I thought it was great. I think going the distance for Punk was a big win. I think when he looks back, he's going to say, you know what? I made it 3 rounds in the UFC. That's a win. I think I can move on. I don't know the guy. Wasn't a huge fan of his when he was the champ. Didn't know why he was so over. I did enjoy his straight age thing. I don't think he's ever drank or did any drugs in his life. I believe that's...
No. Yeah, that's his big thing. No drugs, never done alcohol, never had caffeine. He's completely, he's got that big straight edge tattoo across his abs. Yeah, so that part I always liked for him. But I mean, good for him. I mean, the biggest point I'm trying to make is that fight wasn't so bad. This is cage fighting, so get off your high horse. And Schwab, you can never throw shade
on Joe Rogan ever. But he did something. He did something to get himself out of this to a certain degree, because Rogan guaranteed 100% heard Schwab throw shade on him. Rogan's been in the entertainment business forever. He's seen comedians make comedians and then turn their back on everybody. He knows what I'm talking about. So at one point, Joe Rogan watched this and was like, oh, man, I can't believe you did that. And Schwab, when he got off his high horse and he had to go talk to Rogan, I guarantee he was like, hey, bro, I wasn't. He came hat in hand. He came hat in hand.
Oh, for sure.
I believe. I don't know. But in that same interview, and the part you might have caught was Schwab throws heat on Chael. Now, Chael was upset about what Rogan said about, Covington.
Yeah,
and he
pulling back the fourth curtain, and just coming out on the broadcast and saying Colby says these things, it's an act. He's just trying to get your pay-per-view money. So, yeah, and Chael had very strong opinions on that.
Well, yeah, I like, he was telling me what, so I went to practice with him the other night, and he was telling me about this, and I was like, man, you missed the forest through the trees, which was Schwab should have never threw any shade on Rogan. I didn't know he threw shade on Chael. Now, Chael throwing shade on Rogan was very interesting because Rogan is one of the guys that is one of the few protected people within this sport. Like, nobody in the sport will usually talk any negative stuff about Joe Rogan. So for Chael coming out to do that, so now to bring you up to speed, Schwab and Chael are going back and forth. The one thing that I loved that Chael did, and he told me, I didn't listen to it, but he told me in the car, he said, if there's 5 people at the table of the entertainment business, you're not one of them, Brendan. Okay, and then he named off the 5. I think it was him, Connor, Kevin Lee, and I'm missing a couple. I'm missing a couple other, but he didn't put Schwab at the table, and I thought that was beautiful. But to sum this thing up is the ego of cage fighting is funny, man. For a guy like Brendan Schwab to throw heat on Joe Rogan, and then Chael to be battling back and forth with Brendan Schwab, kind of goes to my point of, all right, man, have we just taken the social media thing too far? I mean, I know that for me the answer is yes, but we've lost our mind putting ourselves on a high horse over this cage fighting stuff.
Absolutely.
All right, now the next line of ammunition that I only have 2 more, and then I'll throw it open to you, is have you watched any of the Donald Cerrone coverage coming up? He's fighting, I believe, Leon Edwards this weekend.
Yeah, I've seen some of it. I haven't caught it all, but I've seen some of it. Okay,
so now Cowboy is famous for being trying to be bros with the dude he's going to fight. Cowboy's one of the only guys that does this, where he's like, oh, man, it's just a fight. We're going to go out. And then in the middle of the fight, he's trying to do high fives or fist bump, when in reality, all he's doing is setting up a trap to knock your head off. He got Matt Brown to give him a hug right before he kicked his head off. Matt Brown wasn't trying to go down that path. Matt Brown is man, he's a killer, but he did fall into that path of Cowboys, and Cowboy kicked his head off. He then did it to that last, who's that guy Mike Perry's fighting next, the Hawaiian guy. Got a funny name.
Oh, Medeiros?
Yeah. So he did that. Yancey Medeiros caught it hook, line, and sinker. For one, Medeiros looked up to Cowboy. 2, he fell into the, hey, man, it's just a fight. We can drink beers afterwards, blah, 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 blah. And now you have this Leon Edwards guy, who I do not know who he is. I believe he's a pretty good fighter. I think he's from England. And he's come out and said, man, I'm going to kick his ass. I'm going to beat him. I'm going to knock him out. I'm not trying to be his friend. And this has now got Cowboy ruffled. Cowboy saying, man, what's the big deal? I mean, we're going to go out and fight anyway, and blah, 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 and woot, woot, woot. And so Cowboy, for the first time, is mad. He's mad at the other guy because the other guy is trying to act like he's got to go to a cage fight in a couple weeks. and now Cowboy, who is on the, he's at the point where he has a huge name. All he's going to be able to fight are killers, whether they're up-and-coming killers. Now, the UFC loves Cowboy because he's been down. He said yes to everybody forever. So they're going to, once in a while, throw somebody in there that they think he's got a pretty good chance at. But Cowboy has become a guy who is living the Cowboy way. He's got the fame. He's got the shine. He is living his gimmick. And his best days as a professional fighter are behind him. If this cat, Leon Edwards, can fight, we might be looking at another Darren Till Cerrone fight where he gets bludgeoned. And I think the point I'm trying to make is this sport doesn't end well for anybody in terms of nobody, only a few people walk through that door unscathed. And I guess my point is, isn't this funny? Not funny. I guess, isn't this interesting that Cowboy's upset because the other guy won't fall into his trap?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like you said, it's worked in there every time with everybody. So yeah, and he's got somebody that's not going to play that. It's taking it, gung ho. This is this guy's shot up and coming, and he's not going to fall into that BS. Yeah, and I saw Cowboy came out, kind of retorted, and it's kind of funny. He said, yeah, he's like, you're up and coming, and I'm a has-been. How are you going to go back and explain you got your ass kicked by an old slow man like myself?
Yeah, I believe Donald have more run in him if he would lose the gimmick, if he would get off the gimmick. I watched him doing. I watched him
everything under the sun outside of fight camp, all the shit that's got to be taxing on your body. I mean,
he's just living
skydiving, and he's living his gimmick. You're right.
And he brings on an entourage that me and Chael talk about it quite a bit. That, man, this sport's not good to the guys that make hundreds of thousands of dollars doing it. At some point, if they haven't watched their money, if they don't have financial sense about them, the only opportunity they have is to fight on different shows to make some money or go work at a gym. I mean, there's no difference between mixed martial arts and boxing for the future of it unless some things change. So the people around you are yes men. They're like, oh, wow, isn't this cool? I need to get my little bit of fame. Where it's like, he had his mitt man his last fight. They doing mitts on the lake, a frozen lake, and I'm just like, all right. Not only did you go do it on the lake, you had to have a camera there. Like this, Donald. You're living the gimmick. So I think he would have more run in him, but he's not. He's never going to put himself in that killer mode again.
Yeah.
Without getting back to what made him, which was a guy going to practice every day.
Yep.
I like Donald. He's one of the few guys that has built a trap for people, and I've watched him kill people in that trap, and now he's upset that somebody fell into it.
I won't play along. Yep.
All right, so my last. Now you're a Republican, and you're hardcore to the center, but. This one should just be simple for everybody. I mentioned this on the last show or the comeback show or whatever you called it, was in Connecticut, the women champion and the second place finisher in both the 100 and 200 state tournament was a transgendered athlete. What's your take on that, bro?
It's absurd. I mean, you can't do it. I mean, they had the one. I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, they had, I think it was in Texas where they had the kid who was a male, was a female transitioning to a male, one or the other, and wanted to do the right thing and fight with the boys. and they, or not fight, but wrestle the boys, and they made her, or him, whichever way it was, wrestle the girls. I think it was somebody transitioning to a boy with the hormones, and they forced her, and she wanted to do the right thing, but they made her go the other route, and she just demolished everybody. I mean, we can't be doing this. It's absurd. The PC BS has gone way too far, and when you're putting boys that identify as girls wrestling the girls division, that's absurd.
Well, now
It's
I don't know.
absolutely
Now, maybe you know more about this than I do. Now, is it okay? Let's take the boy to the girl thing. Okay, the boy to the girl transgender. Does that mean they've now lost their equipment? Correct. Whereas the women to the men, it's more of a hormone thing. But the striking one to me is the men to the woman. They've at this point jumped off the cliff and lost their equipment. Correct. Or do we not know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, that's up to the individual when and how far they go with that. But yeah, so if nothing else, they're taking the testosterone. They're doing everything to turn themselves internally and chemically into a man. And at some point, yes, most of them lop it off and have it reconstructed. Correct.
Yes.
But they've still got the same bone density as a man, and for quite a while, they've still got the hormonal and chemical makeup of a man, the muscle fiber, the bone density.
The
they
science.
Are still structurally, yes.
The science that separates the two genders.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So the last point on this thing is I don't want to stop anybody from living their life any way they want to live it to a certain degree, but I do caution this. And where we as a society need to scale this thing back is when we have children. And that's what they are in high school. They are still children. When we have children deciding they want to change their gender, I think we need to put the brakes on this thing and say, okay, that's fine, but you're not going to get the hormone therapy. We're not going to do this until your brain matures at least 21. Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen to where, because now it's a thing. Now it's a thing. I mean, it used to be, coming up when I came up, it was you were either straight or gay, and there was only a few gays, and the gays started gaining steam, and then it became acceptable to a certain degree to be gay, whether it's a lesbian or a guy, whatever. And now we've went another spot where we've said, okay, not only it's okay for you to be gay, which I'm not saying it's not. We do whatever you want, but it's now okay if you're trans. There's a word out there that the young kids are using and Lad came to me. He was like, oh, that's cool that she understands or he understands that it's a trans. And I'm like, man, that's when we're jumping the shark as a society. And
even worse than the high school kids deciding, I mean, you've probably seen in the news, there have been reported cases of doctors being sued by parents, because the doctors refuse to prescribe. There's parents who are trying to get the hormone treatments, the chemicals, into their 4 and 5-year-old children because that boy plays with dolls and says he wants to be a girl. And these parents are asking to do that, and there's doctors refusing. There's noted cases I've seen on the news network where they are being sued because they refuse to prescribe the hormone therapy on 4 and 5-year-old children. These parents are going that far.
Yeah, we've lost it, man. We've lost it in a lot of ways.
Damn mind.
We've lost it a lot.
Damn
I mean, they're. See, I keep saying that there has to be a spot for the middle, man. There has to be a stop, because I'm more liberal than I am a Republican. I would tell you that. But when I see something out of bounds, man, it doesn't matter which side of the rope I'm on. I'm going to say, hey, that's out of bounds. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
whether it's this, the president being a social media bully, which you have to admit that he is.
He tends to be. He puts some things out there.
See, and you're pro-Trump and everything. I'm just saying that that's a spot that I'm going to try to unplug from. So last part of my life, I can live separated from my phone and separated from what people say that I don't even know. Okay, so for me, I went into it at the beginning of the show. That's the one thing for me is man, we're off base on this transgender thing as it pertains to when you can decide to do that, because it's a big decision to make. I think age-wise needs to be looked at that. And then when you do, go ahead and do it, but it then disqualifies you from a lot of things. Okay?
Absolutely.
It disqualifies you from a lot of things. We went to get lads. Man, I could talk for hours, but we're going to have to cut this thing up today. I got 4 minutes to tie this up. So anyway, all right, I'm going to get off this. I'm going to throw it over to you. Do you have anything you want to talk about it? I know you got a bunch, but I can only throw one to you because I got to be out of here in 4 minutes. 3.
No, I'm just specific, man, and just I'm really looking forward to, let's get back to fighting a little bit, the announcement of when the next round is for Chael. He's posted some stuff about Fedor going back into training, and I don't know if you've got any more insight than the rest of us do, but that's what I'm looking forward to next. We're going to be at that fight no matter what. So I am looking forward to that tournament moving on. Because
I think he's got.
They've claimed that they're going to wrap it up within the year, so they got 6 months to do the 2 rounds with a little space in between. So, I am looking forward to that. I haven't heard word one about the next round.
Yeah, I think that. I think it's October. I mean, they haven't given him a date, but I believe it's October. He's training as such. I've watched a few of his training sessions. He's looking better than he usually does this far out. And quite frankly, he was injured. For quite some time. Yeah, he was off for an extended period of time, which I believe was one of his longest layoffs in terms, even though he was suspended a couple times or 15 times. I believe it was the longest one. But he's gonna come back. And he's got a great opportunity to do something that not many people have. I mean, he can become a world champion at the end of his career, and he's within 2 fights of doing it. So
I hope they put both fights on one card and then have the wrap up there at the in December.
Well, they're going to
be him and Mitrione in the final. That's what I see.
I think Bader will beat. I don't know what. I just hope he wins it. All right. So the last thing I was going to go into it a little bit. I went into it last time. So I came back out here. I was 238 when I showed up back out here, but it was a good it was a healthy, responsible 238 where I could, all right, I could tighten some things up and be back down to 215, in a matter of 6 weeks. But again, it went too far, and then I made it, to mention that, when I got married, I remember I weighed 221 pounds, and I was just coming off of being an athlete, and Matt Lindland was in my wedding, and I picked him up at the airport, and he was like, "Oh my God, that is just," and we called it the original the Joel Fatness. That was where my fat scale started out at 220. And boy, would I love to be back to it. So anyway, I ballooned all the way back up to 280. That was one of the reasons we haven't been doing the show, is because me and you were going back and forth. And I was like, bro, I don't feel comfortable kind of talking about health when I'm out of it. And you were like, dude, just you got to use your own advice, and we can probably gain more steam working it back the other ways, being cognizant of it back the other way. So 280, put myself on a program where I'm going to lose 1.5% of my body fat all the way down to my goal weight. My goal, I started out at 280. My goal today was I think it was 276. a little bit less, 275.6, I believe what the number was. And I came in. I weighed in this morning. I'll do the same thing next Friday. I came in at 273.4, which is good. Well, see, for me, bro, I've always had such a rush losing 15 pounds that first week. And I'm like, you failed every single time because now you're back. You're back to where you know. Now you're back again. You're fat again. You gotta roll all over it. So next week when we hit the scale, it's going to be around 272. I'll share some more. I'll talk more about that during the shows next week. And bro, I think I just hit enter, and they can send this directly to you. So text.
Oh, beautiful.
Text me which one you want. Which email address you want me to send it to, and do you want it in MP3 form?
Yes.
All right, cool. I don't have anything else. We're going to get the kinks worked out on this Friday show. What I want to get to is where the fans are my guests and the fans are calling in. I would like to be able to have you on the whole time too, so the three of us can talk. So if that means I need to go to a different spot or something, but sound wise, I think you're gonna be happy with this, and we're back rolling again. That's it, man. How did we use to peace?
Peace.
That's it. I'm going to shut this off. Where's my button? That's the one.